President Trump preparing to make good on one of his biggest campaign promises, dismantling the Department of Education with the help of Education Secretary Linda McMahon.
I want to bring the schools back to the states. And, I've said it 100 times. We're ranked at the bottom of the list, and yet we spend more. We're ranked #1 for cost per student. We're ranked at the bottom of the list in education. I want the states to run schools, and I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
In her first interview since being confirmed, Education Secretary Linda McMahon joins us now. Good morning to you, Madam Secretary.
Good morning,
Thank
Ainsley.
you for coming on. So we've heard that he could be signing this executive order today to abolish the Department of Education. Is that coming today?
I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of the president. I think you'd have to check with the White House. I think he certainly intends to sign the order, and we've talked about it. He's made it crystal clear since the time he was running for president that this is his intent. His intent is to provide quality education through school choice to all students. And he wants to make sure that education is back at the state level where it belongs, that our local school boards, that governors and teachers and parents are really the ones that are involved mostly in their children's education.
What exactly would school choice look like? Would he give X amount of dollars that's spent on every student back to the parents? They could choose private school. They could go to any school in the surrounding area or in their county or in their state. What would it look like?
I think there are various programs that we would look at. Scholarship programs. We could use voucher systems to go to different schools. I think there are a lot of ways to provide opportunities to children that are stuck in failing schools. No child should be stuck in a failing school.
Do you know for sure he's definitely going to abolish the Department of Education?
He's been very clear about that. I mean, he couldn't be any more clear when he said he wants me to put myself out of a job.
How did you feel about that?
But, well, I think there is definitely a role for education to make sure that as we move education back to the states, that we are providing the tools for the governors, for the teachers, that we can provide them with research to show best practices. Because the president's goal really is to see our scores go up. When 70%, of our students cannot read with proficiency, I mean, that's just incredibly difficult to swallow, and he's just not going to accept it. Especially
when the schools are focused so much on other things like DEI and telling our children they can transition. I want my child to learn about math and science and reading, because if you look at the stats, we're well below in all of these. And President Trump says we spend more money than any other country, yet we're one of the lowest. Absolutely, and that's intolerable. So we really have to make sure that our teachers are focused on teaching basics. Let's get back to the science of reading. Let's teach it phonetically. We've seen great results in Louisiana, Mississippi, other states that have put programs in place. Their scores come up. They're Iowa,
rising.
Indiana,
yes.
The president was talking about.
Yeah.
So if you give this money back to the states, how will you be able to determine what they're teaching, curriculum?
The Department of Education does not set curriculum.
What does the department do?
The department actually does a lot of research. We see a lot of programs. We make sure that funds are getting into the states that are by statute, but those can, flow in different ways back to the states.
Do we need this department?
No, we don't.
What about your employees, 4,100 employees? What are they saying? I'm sure they're fearful they're going to lose their jobs.
Well, I think any time there's talk about shutting a department down, the employees that are there are concerned about their jobs, but they're good off-ramps for them. And in a country where we right now have over 8 million openings in jobs, I think there'd be a lot of places for them to go. We'd like to help them get there. I want to talk to you about what this means for our teachers. I'm a daughter of a teacher for 33 years. My sister's a teacher in Charleston, South Carolina. And I want to talk about what it means for the parents, because I know you want to give the parents you want to make them the primary decision makers. But first, let's start with the unions. What does this mean for the unions? Because Randy Weingartner, head of AFT, says trying to abolish the Department of Education, which, by the way, only Congress can do, which is true, you would need 60 votes, sends a message that the president doesn't care about opportunity for all kids. Maybe he cares about it for his own kids or his friends' kids or his donors' kids, but not all kids. Well, I can tell you, when I've talked to teachers who tell me that of every dollar that comes into the classroom, they spend about 47 cents of that dollar complying, with regulations. And the president wants to release teachers to be innovative in their classrooms. Let teachers teach. Let them do what they like to do. There is no one-size-fits-all for education, and those teachers that are in the classroom feeling that energy every day, knowing what this group of kids can do better, that group of kids can do better, let's let them do what they do.
What would you say would you have any control over the superintendents that are more woke or the schools that are more woke, or would that be up to the governors of those states?
It's really up to the governors. There is some federal funding that does come into some schools through different contracts. And so we, the Department of Education, before I got there, but after President Trump was elected, have stripped out DEI from a lot of the contracts and taken away that kind of particular funding.
Without the Department of Education, what would this mean for the students and for the parents?
I think we will see scores go up. Our nation's report card, which is called NAEP, which came out the end of January, is what showed how far down. You know, since the Department of Education was established in 1980, we've spent over $1 trillion to see our scores continue to go down. We are not doing something right, and it's time to change it.
Would it affect the teachers if there's no more Department of Education?
I don't know. Teachers will be there in the classrooms. They're hired locally. They are supervised on a local basis. The Department of Education doesn't have anything to do, you know, with hiring teachers. That's all done at a local level. And I think teachers should be, you know, rewarded. Good teachers should be rewarded. And I think that teaching is one of the most noble professions in our country. I got my certificate to teach when I was in college, and in my career took a different path. But teaching is so noble, and there are so many excellent, good teachers, and we want to encourage them and support them and stand in their corner.
Madam Secretary, you've seen in the news Barnard College, Columbia, all of these universities at a high level allowing anti-Semitism on their campuses for so long. Now they're trying to push back. The president of Barnard wrote the op-ed or the letter saying that this is not going to be tolerated any longer, but she's been there before October 7th, and now we're hearing from her in this capacity. What are your thoughts about this, and what can we do about it?
Well, I can tell you the president has said he's absolutely not going to allow federal funds to be going to these universities that continue to allow anti-Semitism on its campus. And that's just something we're not going to do. And I think there are a lot of different ways to look at that. That funding supports research. It supports many other programs that the universities offer. So if universities like Columbia, and the Department of Education has launched 5 investigations now into different universities to make sure that they are not allowing anti-Semitism. Kids ought to be able to go to college, and parents ought to feel good about their kids going to college, knowing they're in a safe environment. And to allow this kind of unrest, this is not about freedom of speech. We're talking about violence on campus.
I know.
And college presidents need to call in the police right away. They have to quell these uprisings and not allow faculty to be attacked or other students to be attacked. So we're at Barnard.
One last question, DOGE. The president saying to Elon Musk, provide the numbers. We're very grateful to you, wealthiest man in the world, helping us to go through and cut out the waste and the fraud. But now it's up to the department heads, the cabinet secretaries, to decide. How is that? How are you using that information to run the Department of Education?
Well, we surely welcome DOGE to come in. I've looked at it as an audit. And, you know, when I was in the private sector, I think a lot of the stuff is always turned up when you do a good, solid audit. So I welcome the DOGE folks that are in. We meet with them almost daily. I've been very appreciative of the things that they have shown us, some of the waste, and we're reacting to that.
Well, thank you for everything you're doing for our country.
Thank you.
And your husband, just such legends, and then now you're working for the President of the United States. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Ainsley.
Thanks, Linda. Madam Secretary.